Radio Flange Goblet. Yes, you're listening to Radio Flange Goblet. On this, our first broadcast since, and I've been asked to read this word for word, our Lord High Magnificence, absolutely the greatest ruler anywhere. I have the best crowds, the biggest crowds. We're going to make radio great again. President Donald J. Trump took power. I've also been asked to refrain from mentioning the fact that he is a tiny, withered-handed orange sex pest goblin full of loose-fetid arse wafts, so I won't be doing that. We have been given strict guidelines by people who didn't at all look like shadowy military police holding heavy artillery about what we can and can't program on our radio channel, which apparently the Trump administration has referred to previously as an utter disgrace, the worst radio ever, fake radio, ignore it, no, turn it off, I can look at it no longer. So, coming up later, we have, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the glorious sounds of polka, played by Trump-approved accordion maestro Lenny Cleft, and accompanied occasionally on maracas by the definitely not Mexican Jose Pantalones El Fuego. Then, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., it's Speeches of Billionaires. Donald J. Trump Jr., they apparently ran out of names in that family, has picked his father's favorite, extraordinarily wealthy orators and compiled bits of speeches confirming everything President Trump has ever said is complete and utter fact, except the stuff where we all took him out of context, despite the fact we had it recorded on video in context. The speeches have been edited together by the Sycophant Edit Collective in Washington, D.C., and the words will be accompanied by military marches from Russia, played by Vladimir Ulyanov on a tiny, tiny glockenspiel. Then, for the rest of the night, it's beauty pageants, the news for delusional people, pussy grabbing from Cleveland, Ohio, hosted by Mike Tyson, with comedy asides by Stephen Baldwin, and of course, celebrity chefs cook Trump steak with musical guest Hulk Hogan. But now, and I can't believe we're still allowed to broadcast this, it is with a heavy heart, much regret and sogginess around my gusset that I say the following words. It's the After Movie Diner.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, Jon Cross.
Yes. Marvelous. Yes. Hello and welcome to another episode of the After Movie Diner, and I do hope you're all sitting comfortably. Just before we get on to the usual film flim-flammery, I just wanted to let everyone know that over on aftermoviediner.com, we have got a lot of things. Brand new things that went up this week were the top 10 of 2016. Yes, January's almost over, and I've only just got around to writing about 2016. But the Oscar nominations did just come out, so I thought it was pretty well timed, if I do say so myself. Why don't you let us know what you thought about the Oscar nominations by writing to us at hello@aftermoviediner.com or aftermoviediner@gmail.com. But I prefer hello@aftermoviediner.com. There is, of course, and we talk about it on the show, but there is, of course, the first episode of Dead End Drive-In with Mo Porn and Brandon Bennett. Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, an excellent new podcast that you can only find exclusively at aftermoviediner.com. Also, a review of The Purge election year, again, incredibly apt considering what just happened, by Michael Campochiaro, who normally does our cult movie reviews, but has decided this time around to review The Purge election year, and we were very happy for him to do so. And lastly, check out the Academy Movie Title Academy. Anyone who remembers our New Year's show will remember that we talked about Combat Academy and also talked about just how many films had the word Academy in during the 80s and 90s. It's a riveting topic, and I wrote an article all about it. There's that and a whole heap more over at aftermoviediner.com. So I do hope, as well as listening to this podcast, you are checking out the website, And also, for all you people who do like the After Movie Diner and wish to support us, yes, you can go to patreon.com/aftermoviediner as well, but you can also bookmark aftermoviediner.com as amazon.com, and for no extra pennies whatsoever, simply click through the Amazon banner on our site. It's right near the top. You can't miss it. Every time you make an Amazon purchase, and we'll get a little bit of a kickback. So why don't you do that? Because everyone uses Amazon now. Who goes to shops anymore? Full of idiots behind counters in T-shirts with the shop's name emblazoned on them, and yet they don't even know where the thing you want is within the allotted time you want them to know. So don't do that. Go to Amazon, look it up yourself. But first, go via aftermoviediner.com. And to all people who work in shops and wear the shop's name emblazoned on your chest, I'm not talking to you. You're, of course, all lovely. I'm talking to the other people who don't listen to this. Well, whatever. Anyway, let's get this shit show started, shall we?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I forgot to grab my notes that I took. Oh, and that, of course, is not them. Oh, good. Oh, there. What?
Nothing. It's just all I can hear is like creaks and scrapes and flaps and bangs. Okay. Hello and welcome to this episode of the After Movie Diner. It wouldn't be any other episode, would it? Of course, it would only be this episode because you're listening to it. But anyway, I still haven't figured out after 209 episodes. So there will be a pre-recorded introduction for you.
Okay.
I imagine. Anyway, hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner. Joining us back on the show. Joining us back on the show, now long, elaborate, pre-recorded introduction. In the lavish fires of Glemdale, across the peaks of Narromond, and up the skirt of Bethuselah, the giant witch goblin of Urg, he lurks. Meaty of chest, wet of brow, his chin like a rough-hewn thicket of man hair, his eyes darting from left to right like a bunny rabbit trying to catch the all-elusive cabbage child of Whippleton under the cloak of Ehrenfeld. Beholder of the VHS clamshell cases of Dink Dink, and coveter of the shiny thigh of Merlin Niece, the Gluth penny of play. He eateth of the pizza, he playeth on the tuba, and he farteth the national folk song of Toozlewinny, home of all the teeth. It's Mo Porn!
Yay!
Hello, sir, how are you?
Oh, I'm dandy.
Excellent, excellent. Last time we had you on the show was, of course, the infamous New Year's show, which was a riot aplenty. I love those shows. Got lots of great feedback from that.
Yeah, your audience right now must be like, oh, fucking hey, this guy again?
No, they love it.
We just heard this douche.
For like 4 hours discussing.
Oh, so many stupid dick jokes.
What was I don't even remember what we did for New Year. That's how fried I am right now.
Oh, yeah, we did the brilliant idea.
Oh, yeah, we did. I remember now. George Clooney
before he was famous. We could have done anybody before they were famous. We chose George Clooney.
I blocked it out because of Red Surf. I blocked Red Surf out of my head.
Oh, see, maybe that's why I remember, because that was the movie I didn't watch.
But we did a movie. I don't know when this episode will come out, but we did a movie a couple of episodes ago, or an episode ago, that I it was wonderful to do it with Mr. J. Mayo, but I felt like it would be a movie right up your street, and that was Getting Lucky, the Troma Team release sex romp, which, as it falls, it was made in 89, released in 90. Is that still, does that still fall into your rules of romps or not?
Yeah. My rules for romps is usually through 93-ish.
It's anything prior to that travesty of crap American Pie, right? That
basically.
Much like slasher movies are fine right up until Scream ruins it for... Well, Scream's fine right up until I Know What You Did Last Summer ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, basically. And I'm not a particularly big Scream fan, but I mean, I'll take that over I Know What You Did the Summer Before Last.
Right, exactly. But no, we did Getting Lucky. Have you seen Getting Lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah. And where does it, like, do you consider it one of the higher romps, or do you just think of it as, because it's sort of an indie romp. It comes right at the end of, like, the romp period, and it's not one of the big studio ones. It was like a little 20 grand indie.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a sort of a middle of the road. And I wouldn't even necessarily consider it like end of the era romp, because like there's still a good 3 years after that came out. I would say it's kind of like in that like tumultuous middle period where there wasn't anything particularly amazing coming out.
Yeah. But it has a leprechaun, and it has a man riding 2 horses at the end for no good reason. So
why wouldn't he be?
Why the fuck not? So anyway, I just thought of you. I've been editing that episode tonight, and I just thought of you, and I wanted to kind of get your 2 cents worth on that movie.
Sure.
Because that was kind of what I would normally do with you, I feel like. That's sort of one of those things. But today, a bit of a departure. I mean, it's odd, actually. The kind of films that I do with you on Drunk on VHS or now your new show, Dead End Driving, tend to be the more kind of comical, weirder, culter ones. And yet when you come on here, a lot of the time we do more of the serious ones, like we did our Tom Waits episode and other ones like that. And today, I don't know where this is going to fall, but we are covering the 2 Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte, Walter Hill mashups from the 80s, 48 Hours and Another 48 Hours. So I don't know if that's serious or whether that's funny. It just is what it is.
I have some serious shit to say about these.
I certainly do about the first one.
Yeah.
The second one is more of your wham bam standard 90s action fare, or 80s and 90s action fare. The first one is a little bit more, has some more artistry, certainly in the way it's made. I don't know that it has artistry in the way that it's written, but it certainly has some artistry in the way that it was made. So yeah, we're going to talk about a couple of classic slices of pre-shit Eddie Murphy action. I think people think of this as like an action comedy. It's not really, is it? There's nothing funny about these 2 movies particularly.
Well, I actually took some notes on the first one. I didn't take any notes on the second one, but I was taking some notes on the first one because I was sitting at work, bored out of my mind watching 48 Hours, and it kind of dawned on me that there's no like belly laugh moments in it. But there's a lot of like sort of like sitting there chuckling to yourself moments. There's a lot of really subtle humor. There's a lot of shit that as you're sitting and watching it, you're like, that was actually kind of funny,
right?
But which is great because I actually really like when Eddie Murphy does that. Because I think he's a lot funnier when he's playing like a real person and not some over the top caricature.
Right. And I do think, although 48 Hours for me, certainly the first one, I'm not sure if I'd ever seen the sequel. I've probably seen it once, maybe. But the first one goes back to me to when I had a VHS collection. I mean, I had 48 Hours on VHS for the longest time. But I had always seen, probably because it was a slightly lower rating in the UK, I had seen Beverly Hills Cop first before I had seen 48 Hours. And so Beverly Hills Cop, certainly the first 2, had always been more of my favorite Eddie action movies. 48 Hours to me was very it was probably a little too like gritty and serious for me at that age.
Right. It's definitely something like because same with you. I hadn't seen either of these movies probably since the 90s for a real long time. So going back and watching them, I actually was, because me and Brandon Bennett, my co-host on Dead End Drive-In, are both like nocturnal. We both work overnights. So a lot of the times we'll just be chatting online, like while we're wasting away our lives at work.
Yeah.
And he says to me, he goes, well, he goes, oh man, I haven't seen those in ages. You know, like how do they hold up? And I'm like, well, I'm only 10 minutes into the first one, so I'll answer that question a little later.
Yeah.
But as I was thinking about that particular question, it kind of dawned on me, like, these hold up really well. Like, there's a lot of like these sort of like, you know, I mean, we use the term action comedy, but it's really buddy cop films, you know,
right?
That just fall to pieces and are just pure shit. And like, you liked them at the time, but like, you can't go back to them. They're not interesting anymore. They're not fun anymore. These ones, with both of them being the case, I thought they both held up beautifully. I think they're just really well-made films, you know, the first one more so.
Yeah. I mean, they have almost more than any of their contemporaries, which would be the Lethal Weapon films, Beverly Hills Cop, and those kind of things. They are more, they're tougher than any of those films. I mean, Lethal Weapon 1 is pretty tough, but there's still enough like humor and weirdness to get you through. Right. This first one, 48 Hours, and again, the reason why I brought up Beverly Hills Cop is I kind of think it depends on what you saw first as to which side of the fence you fall. And certainly it also depends kind of what period of your life you're in. But right. the first one, while you're right, it has like a couple of moments. Eddie Murphy is, in both these films, playing it as kind of straight and serious as Eddie Murphy gets.
Right.
He's not playing, it's always described in the description of these movies, you know, Nick Nolte is the hard-nosed, tough-as-nails cop, and Eddie Murphy is the wisecracking ex-con, but he's not really a wisecracking ex-con.
He's not wisecracking at all. Even
the sequence in the first one where he goes into the hillbilly bar and says to Nick Nolte, like, look, watch what I've got. I'm going to go in there and get the information we need. And you think he's going to go in and kind of do the Bugs Bunny routine like he would do in Beverly Hills Cop. But he doesn't. He kind of goes in and actually beats a bunch of people up and throws them against the wall and like gives them some shit. It's, you know, that's interesting coming at it from a sort of post Beverly Hills Cop Eddie Murphy place. Because even though I did see this back in the day, it was never one that I put in again and again, and which is why I think it retains its freshness. I also think it retains something of its freshness as well because it was so early. I mean, it comes out in 1982, and it has a little bit of that feeling of, especially because it's San Francisco as well, and it's that period where sort of 35mm film still looks like film. Like it looks like nice, grainy, chunky, proper film. And I got reminiscence of the sort of first couple of Dirty Harry films, for example. It's got that kind of hard edge to it. It's got the San Francisco streets. Nick Nolte is completely a no-nonsense prior to political correctness type gun-toting cop.
Yeah, I was going to say we like, you cannot talk about the first movie without bringing up political correctness. You know, it's it's a great indicator. Like the first one in particular, the second one does away with it. It doesn't really go there because the whole a good chunk of the first half, if not maybe even like the first two acts of the first 48 Hours film is Nick Nolte giving Eddie Murphy shit, and he gives him shit like sort of like building up this bond between them, you know, which kind of like overflows with that like street fight scene that they have together. just casually tossing around the N word, calling him watermelon, and it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, if this movie came out today, like, people would be like protesting in the streets over the way Nick Nolte's character is portrayed, and not realizing that it's not that he's racist. He's not a racist. It's pretty abundantly clear that he's not a racist, and that he's just giving this guy who he has no respect for just constant shit. And he even says it later on in the movie. He says, it's just me doing my job, giving you a hard time. And like, it doesn't feel like he's coming up with excuses for his racism. It's I don't even think of it as that. I think of it as him just being a cop and like riling up this bad guy in his eyes, to get him to do what he wants him to do. And
being an asshole, like he's not not being racist. He's being an asshole.
Exactly,
and he knows therefore that using those words will get a rise out of him, or will put him down and will keep him down.
Right.
And look, again, we're not excusing the movie's racism or the casual race or whatever. It's and you have to say, look, it's 1982, but it's similar in Dirty Harry when the guy is talking about, like, how does he feel about this, that, and everything else in terms of all the different races. And then he says, well, how does he feel about Mexicans? Because his partner's part Mexican. He says, I particularly hate the Spics. And it's more just that, in the same way that political correctness will tell you to tiptoe around absolutely everybody, no matter how precious they're being, the reverse is also true. It doesn't make them racist. It just means that they don't tiptoe around anyone. It's a broad brush for everyone. Everyone is a fucking asshole, and I'm going to treat everyone like a fucking asshole, myself included. And I'm well aware that I, in Nick Nolte's case, drink too much, smoke too much, swear too much, shoot too much, fight too much. But fuck it, that's who I am, and fuck you. He's like that with his woman. He's like that with Eddie Murphy. He's like that with his partners in the police force. So it's more like that. It's more like if you love everybody or you hate everybody. It's more those people in the middle who are, I'm going to pick and choose who I'm nice to. They're kind of the problem, because you should either be an asshole to everybody because you're an asshole, or be nice to everyone. This idea that you go, well, I'm going to be nice to white people, but I'm going to be a dick to black people, that makes you a racist. Right. But if you're just a dick to everybody, that's different, and that's
how I live my life.
Right, and that's where like
just a dick to everybody.
Right, and that's where the Nick Nolte Dirty Harry thing comes from. I think that's how I explain it away if it needs to be explained.
Right.
I like it because last week, as I say, or a couple the episodes we did, Getting Lucky, which is horribly misogynistic throughout the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then we're doing 48 hours.
In fairness, most of those movies kind of are.
Of course, right, completely. Yeah. And that's what's great about them. And this movie, certainly the first one, like you say, is sort of horribly un-PC about almost everything. I like it. Considering who is being inaugurated this week that we're recording this, I feel like I need to do some podcasts where we throw some of the usual niceties out the window and just say fuck it.
So there's watching this the other night, I had some real great flashbacks, especially with the original score for 48 hours, and another 40 hours, because they're both oh god, what's his fucking name? Horner.
Yeah, James Horner.
Yeah, James Horner. There we go. Who, of course, did the music for. I mean, he's done music for a ton of shit, but he did the music for Commando, and like the music for Commando and the music for this and another 48 hours are very similar. And like the second you hear those steel drums and the bring, It's like, oh yeah. And so of course now I'm having like flashbacks of guys being thrown by springboards and Arnie, throwing saw blades at people's heads and shit.
Yeah.
And it's really effective. I don't know. I love like that style. Like I really love the music in these movies and in Commando, obviously.
And that's one of the things to be said about this pair of films is that even though they are 8 years apart, certainly 8 years apart in when they come out, although I get the feeling from some of the things that are kind of said and done in Another 48 Hours that it was maybe written and even made 2 years before it comes out, or at least a year before it comes out. Just because they're talking about him having been in prison for 5 years, right, which would place it more around 87, 88 than it would 1990. But even though what's amazing about it, and in much the same way as Lethal Weapon, although they lose a screenwriter, obviously, is that for the sequel, not only do you get the cast back right down to a returning Brian James as Kehoe, but you get Walter Hill back as director and writer, you get James Horner back, you get the producers back, and so the films feel very much a piece. They feel very comfortable together.
Right.
There's no
which
great
is rare.
Yeah, it is rare, and it's also good because even Beverly Hills Cop, I mean, two completely different directors for the first and second one, and two kind of different feels as well. And although you maintain the same director for Lethal Weapon, they get more and more ridiculous as the series goes on. There isn't and to be fair, Another 48 Hours it is more ridiculous than 48 Hours, but in a action way, not in a comedy way. Like no one's like in Another 48 Hours, they don't have to like, I don't know, dress up as women and infiltrate a kids party or something. Like
but think about it though. Think about it for a second though. Like imagine how much more over the top Eddie Murphy could have forced his character to be, because between when the first one came out, which when he was still a big name when the first one came out, but he was a huge name when the second one came out. And like,
he co-produces it, doesn't he? The second one, he actually mounts with his company. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. And so imagine him having that much power now in the second one and that much power in Hollywood in general. He could have made his character any way he wanted to, and he was like, no, I like, and he basically, cause he plays the character, in the second one, almost on par with how he plays it in the first. He's still the same sort of character. It's still the same idea. He's just this sort of like, low life thief, so to speak. But he could have essentially ruined the entire film by having a big head. And I kind of have to give him props for not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, even though I think he's gone on record, someone told me as saying he hates the second one. I don't really know why. That seems a bit stupid, really, especially considering he produced it and so on, and also the fact that it is. I actually prefer the style. I prefer the plot and action of the second one. I prefer the style and performances in the first one.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. They are still two very different films.
Yeah. I think if you put them together, you kind of have the perfect film.
Yeah.
But it's quite incredible. I didn't really kind of know the trajectory necessarily off the top of my head of Eddie Murphy's career. It's quite incredible. I also didn't realize like how early his career started to fuck up, because between 48 Hours and Another 48 Hours, he only has one slight critical dip, which is Harlem Nights. It's the only one that gets critically mauled at the time.
But you've seen Harlem Nights though, right?
I haven't. No, it's the one I haven't seen. Weirdly enough.
See, and that's the thing. I think it gets a lot of shit, but I actually think it's a good movie. Like I don't think it's not a masterpiece. It's not nearly as good as the other movies he was making in that time period. But I think Harlem Nights is a really good movie, and I think it's criminally underrated.
Right. And I've also heard that opinion too. But you have, between 48 Hours, you have Trading Places, Then he does a cameo in Best Defense, which I can only assume was a favor to someone. Then Beverly Hills Cop, Golden Child, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Coming to America, Harlem Nights, another 48 Hours. All of them huge hits. He follows another 48 Hours up with Boomerang, which I remember being a fairly big rental.
I actually just watched that for the first time like the other month, or actually a couple of weeks back. Like I'd never seen it before because it looked idiotic to me. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've not seen it. But then I didn't realize that Beverly Hills Cop 3 is in 1994. Like I had this memory that it came out like in the 2000s or something. Like decades after the first one, and that's why it's so shit. I had no idea that Beverly Hills Cop 3, which is by far one of the worst, like everyone involved in that movie had been insanely good during the 80s. Just fucking incredible during the 80s. And that movie is an utter pile of shit. There is nothing redeeming about it.
It's almost like dream casting for Beverly Hills Cop 3 and just dropping the ball to the worst possible extent.
Yeah, it's awful. So but I had no idea that his career went shit that quickly. Because, I mean, I know obviously he has a run of it with things like The Nutty Professor and Dr. Dolittle and things like that later on. But my personal taste is most of that is shit. Like, I'm not a particular fan of those. Other people might be.
I hate his fucking, like, family-friendly comedies. I think they're terrible.
Yeah, and in a weird way, more offensive than the original 48 Hours. Racially, I mean. But I personally think the last time Eddie Murphy was truly, truly, truly great was Bowfinger. And Bowfinger comes at a time where both him and Steve Martin are doing nothing of any worth whatsoever, and somehow out of nowhere they pull it out of the bag.
Yeah, it really is like a shining beacon in this sea of shit that they both invented, you know. And that was one of those movies that like I avoided for a really long time. Sort of like with Boomerang, I had avoided it for a really long time because I'm like, oh well, you know, look when it came out. Like there's no way this is any good. And then I watched it. I'm like, this is really, really good. Why did I wait so long to watch this?
Yeah. So back to the original 48 Hours. And what's funny about the original 48 Hours, especially compared to its sequel, is there's really no fucking plot to speak of whatsoever. It really is the loosest of ideas, which is I will partner with a convict. I'm a cop. I'll partner with a convict because there are other convicts loose and he may be able to help me find them, sort of. Because he was in a gang with everyone's favorite 80s and 90s action B-list performer, James Remar, who absolutely chews up the fucking scenery no matter what film he's in. Of course, he is the wonderful Gans in this. But would also show up in the wonderful Jean-Claude Van Damme film, The Quest, which is our favorite performance by Mr. Remar as Maxi Divine, because who can't beat that? But no, so basically he had a gang, and with Sonny Landham playing Billy Bear, who is a Native American, they break James Remar off a chain gang and are trying to get $500,000 back from David Patrick Kelly as Luther on the streets of San Francisco, and Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy, who used to be in James Remar's gang and knows where the money is because it's in the back of his Porsche, are on their tail. But it is really just a series of chases in which they lose James Remar and Billy Bear repeatedly.
Pretty much.
Interspersed with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy shouting at each other, calling each other names, and in one sequence, quite reminiscent to They Live, having a back alley brawl for 5 straight minutes.
I'm really glad you brought up the They Live comparison, because I was it's in my notes, and I'm like, I got to bring up They Live. Yeah, it is. It's very. I mean, but that sort of thing was used. I wouldn't say a lot, but it was used, effectively a few times to sort of like bring characters together. Like they have a big fight and then afterwards they're like a lot closer.
Right. And it's kind of like, it is funny because
it's a tension breaker.
the first movie, in the middle of it, or like you say, at the end of the second act, they kind of sweetly become friends. Like really, like in a way where Nick Nolte will, like, not only says and apologizes and all the rest of it, but will put his job and life and everything else on the line for Eddie, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like they suddenly, and so the plot isn't so much, there isn't, I mean, there were good guys and bad guys, but like there's no big plot. There's no MacGuffin. There's no real nothing going on. The plot really is about these two guys kind of becoming friendlier, which is kind of sweet, in a horribly racist, violent way.
Right.
But well, that can bring us together.
Which is of course the best way to be sweet.
The bedrock of American purity or something. I don't know.
It's really the American experience,
the American dream. What elevates this? And what kept me rewatching it this time round is Walter Hill and his cinematographer Rick Waite. I mean, they shoot the fuck out of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, like they're like at the beginning. I think I want to say it's like right at the very beginning of the movie, like before he even goes to get Reggie out of prison. There's this amazing long shot that's just sort of like following the action around what's happening in the police station. And it's so organic and it's so like beautifully done. And like the timing on everything is perfect. And all of the performances are just like spot on. Like it makes you wonder how many times they had to do it, because it was just so perfectly done. Like it just, like that scene always stands out in my head because it's perfection. It's so well, I mean, like fuck.
Yeah. And there was another thing that was going through my mind watching it when the recent, or I like to say recent, even though it's probably been 10 fucking years at this point, I'm just so old. But when the recent like 3D craze started,
sure,
everyone was saying, oh, but it gives movies such depth of field and da-da-da-da. No. If I ever hear anyone say that again, I'm going to say go back and watch 48 Hours. And I'll tell you why. Lenses and where you shoot shit from give shit a depth of field, because I feel like Rick Waite and Walter Hill use focus, long lenses, and depth all the way through this movie, also coupled with incredible lighting and, using the vibrant colors of Chinatown and places like that in San Francisco to really illuminate the film as well, with like oranges and greens and pinks. I mean, especially when you get to that last sequence where they're chasing James Remar through the alleyway, and the iconic power shot of Nolte coming out of the shadows to. That's
a great shot.
It's tremendous. But the whole film is filmed, like you say, kind of from a long way away. Like there's lots of sequences where you're seeing their car through a stream of other traffic, through the streetcars going by, through people walking in the foreground. Like it's incredibly well done. And
well, it's like you're watching something that's taking place in a real world, as opposed to like set pieces and like things specifically being staged for the movie. Like it feels organic. It feels like you're in a real world, especially in the first one, not quite as much in the second one.
The second one feels far more like a Tony Scott film or a Michael Bay film.
Sure.
It's still shot well, but it's got nowhere near the attention to detail that the first one has. And it has ridiculously stupid things like a man gets shot with a handgun and that lifts him up into the air and back horizontally through a window with squibs going off and glass flying everywhere and slow-mo and all the rest of it. So, 8 years go by, and by the time we get to there, also tastes have changed. This comes off the back of like the Dirty Harrys and the French Connections and stuff like that from the 70s.
Right.
By the time we get to 1990 or 89 when it was being made, we've had Beverly Hills Cop 2, we've had Top Gun, we've had the Rambos and the Rockies, and we've got to that point where action is just turning into being ludicrous. And if we can blow something up, we're going to blow it up 5 times more than we would normally. And if we can shoot a guy, we're going to shoot him 18 times, and he's going to propel himself by pixie magic through 7 glass plates and stuff. So we're already at that point in action movies. So that's maybe explains the difference between the two. But the first one, reeks of cool. And while there isn't the plot driving it, and while some of the interaction between Eddie and Nick Nolte is a little outdated, what propels you through the movie more than anything, for me personally, is the look and sound and feel of it. Because, like you say, the action isn't even particularly over the top in the first one. There's a couple of chases.
No. I mean, because even if you take a look at the David Patrick Kelly quote unquote fight scene that happened,
right?
Where and no joke, there's a couple of punches thrown in there where it looks like Nolte connects. It's really, it's painful to watch. But yeah, there's nothing particular as far as major action sequences are concerned. There's some chase scenes and stuff like that, but everything is pretty low key and tries to be as fairly realistic as possible, which you got to commend the film for.
Yeah, and we get a very early appearance from Jonathan Banks, which of course people would know from Beverly Hills Cop later on, and then obviously Breaking Bad now is where he's most famously known from. But I'd known Jonathan Banks and seen him in as B-tier James Remar level action films.
Well, yeah, he's in a ton of these. He's always like a henchman or like another cop or something like that. Like he hadn't quite propelled himself up to full on supporting character status, but he was always in these movies. He's been around forever.
He's in a lot of these. He's in Cold Steel. He was in an episode of Walker, Texas Ranger. He was in Armed and Dangerous with John Candy.
John Candy, yeah.
He's in what else is he in of this kind of thing? A whole bunch. T.J. Hooker he was in. So he was in a whole bunch of stuff. But he's awesome. Jonathan Banks, love him in this movie. And I don't know. I don't have much else to say about the first one. What are your notes on the first one?
We went over most of them. We didn't mention, I love the. It's not really. It's touched upon in the second one. So he just kind of gives the story of what's happened in the last, 5 years or so. But I liked the relationship with him and Elaine, like Annette O'Toole's character, and how how she hates him but loves him, and it's typical. Cop girlfriend relationship. I thought that was great. David Patrick Kelly. And it did kind of crack me up watching this, seeing Brian James, because he in the episode you just posted today, to give people an idea of when we're recording this, of the episode of Dead End Driving we just put out on Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. Brian James is actually in that. He plays like a security guard. Like, he doesn't even have a name. He's just guard. Yeah. But he's got such like a defined look, like Brian
James. He just has his Brian Jamesiness about him.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so I thought it was really funny that like in the course of like a week I've watched 3 Brian James films.
Yeah, and you could watch 3 more and not get bored because the man is fantastic. He's just a legend. And what's funny is hardly any range as an actor, and yet I mean, no offense to him, he's just Brian James and everything, but throughout the 80s. Plays a real variety of people. Doesn't do it particularly well, but gives it his best shot. Like, if you look at him in this character, and then you look at him as the albino in Death Street USA, or Nightmare at Noon as it's known, and then you look at him in Tango and Cash as is he meant to be Australian? Is he meant to be English? What is that accent? What the fuck's going on there? He's really all over the shop. He wears a lot of different wigs. He wears a lot of different mustaches and beards and things. But he's also always undefinably Brian James. And for that, we love him.
Yeah, right.
Another dude.
I mean, and it's the same thing with Jonathan Banks, too. Like,
although Banks has slightly more ability, I feel.
Oh well, yeah, he's a better actor without a doubt. But back in this time period, like back in like the 80s and 90s, he was always playing the same sort of shit. He played a lot of characters. I mean, he's still doing it now. It's like even him in his really weird addition to the cast of Community when he took over after Chevy Chase left.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great addition because I'm not a Chevy Chase fan. But he's still basically playing the same thing. And like even in Breaking Bad, he's still playing the same thing. He's just doing it really well.
Yeah, no, Jonathan Banks never put on a white wig and a colonel mustache and tried to be an albino in a Nick Mazarakis movie. No, he never did that. Brian James did that. Jonathan Banks never showed up on the set of a Sylvester Stallone movie and went, I think I'm going to play this Australian English, Sylvester. He never showed up doing massive amounts of drugs and playing a kind of Rat Weasley guy in a Sam Raimi movie. But Jonathan Banks is Jonathan Banks is Jonathan Banks, but in the best possible way. Whereas Brian James is a million different people, but in a very Brian Jamesy way. That's kind of what I mean. Right. But bless him for trying to stretch what talent he had, and we love him for it. And he is very sadly missed. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 48 Hours, I would definitely recommend people check it out. Like I say, don't go in expecting, imagine if Dirty Harry teamed up with, a convict kind of thing, because that's kind of what it is. It's far more that vibe than it is, and it's even underwritten compared to Dirty Harry. I mean, even Dirty Harry has some kind of quips and one-liners, and they don't really have that in this movie. The one thing that I have to applaud Walter Hill for, and Nick Nolte, is both films, it doesn't matter when they were made, are like resolutely, or certainly Nick Nolte's character, is resolutely, unapologetically, fuck you, an American. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way Nick Nolte and his ever-present sky blue topless Cadillac that he's driving around, rusted up junker Cadillac, he drives around the streets of San Francisco the way Nick Nolte just traverses a crowd of people. It's like... there's that great moment in not to cut you off, but there's that great moment in the second one where he picks up Brian James and and Brian James is holding the wheel while Nick Nolte's reading the files, Yeah. And then after he gets all the information he needs, he just hands the files back over him and then just throws it into reverse and just backs back the way he came. Yeah, if there's any humor in the first two, it doesn't come from wisecracks. It comes from the fact that Nick Nolte is playing Jack Cates as if he got Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, ate them for breakfast, and then spent he's playing this, like John Wayne plays Brannigan, and he just goes around being like, fucking Brannigan. Like, everywhere he goes, it's just like, fucking, ugh. Nick Nolte takes that performance, that not very subtle performance of John Wayne, adds cigarettes, alcohol, and Nick Nolte's voice, and just elevates it to it's a weird. It's like watching wildebeest do ballet. That's kind of it's sort of. It's like watching.
That's the best analogy I've ever heard.
You know what I mean?
I do. It's perfect. That's a perfect analogy. It's like wildebeest doing ballet.
Yeah. Put a buffalo or a bison in a, ratty tweed jacket and an old shitty mustard stained shirt and give it a handgun, and that's kind of what you've got. And I love the fact that in both movies, the rule book of due process and driving properly and questioning people and Miranda rights and all, it's just thrown completely out of the window. Like, the joy is more seeing them just be like, I don't give a fuck. It's like I say, it's like a wildebeest ate John Wayne and Clint Eastwood and then went and did ballet. That's kind of what it's like.
But it's great though. It's really brilliantly done. Like, I like the fact that it comes back to bite him in the ass in the second one too. Like, the fact that he's not like a rogue cop, and he's not quite a cop on the edge or anything like that.
The second one, he's not. The second one, he's a criminal on the run.
Right, exactly.
There is no, he is, first of all, suspended from the police force. Secondly, under criminal investigation. Yeah. Thirdly, is indicted and facing jail time.
Yeah,
but all the time he's just
the fact that he's like, all right, well, let's go to my hearing. It's like it started 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
The After Movie Diner with Jon Cross will return right after this.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
This podcast takes no shortcut in producing outstanding content. How they haven't become more widely recognized is beyond me.
I love this show. Smart commentary, in-depth interviews, and great production.
It's obvious how serious these guys take their podcast and bring that next level of professionalism that anyone would be hard-pressed to match.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
Hello, folks. This is a promo for a podcast called The Chris and Chris Show. I'm Chris with a C.
And I'm Chris with a K. The Chris and Chris Show is a movie podcast where myself and my colleague, Chris with a C,
hello,
discuss our thoughts on films from a wide variety of genres, all in our own inimitable style.
Here's what the masses are saying about the show. Funny, irreverent film analysis.
Reviews are great and spot on. Subscribe now.
The Chris and Chris Show is a slickly produced and fun podcast with two gents who have great chemistry.
They sound like two old men.
Now, don't read that one.
Oh, sorry. Keeps me intrigued and keeps me entertained.
There you have it. What are you waiting for? Head on over to www.wafo.fm.
The audio equivalent of dysentery.
Stop reading the bad ones. What are you doing? Anyway, head on over to wafofm.com. That's WAFUFM.com to check out the show or subscribe to The Chris and Chris Show on iTunes.
Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Chris and Chris Show. That's Chris with a C, Chris with a K.
Lovely. The
Chris and Chris Show. The biggest load of I've ever heard.
What are you doing?
Hey everyone, this is Sean from Trivia Geeks. Join us each week as I, your MC, and team captains Carrie and Michael, and their guests from around the internet take on trivia challenges in a battle for supremacy of the internet. Trivia Geeks airs live on Alpha Geek Radio and Diamond Club TV every Tuesday night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, or subscribe to the show wherever fine podcasts are sold. For all the latest, follow us at Trivia Geeks Show on Twitter.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
So this is what I mean. The second one has far more plot. In order to contrive to get the two of them... So the sequel has to contrive to get the two of them back together. Right. And have Eddie Murphy be the innocent one, and Nick Nolte be the criminal this time round.
Yeah.
But also have the sweet thing of the fact that Eddie Murphy is then pissed at him again at the beginning because it's been 5 years. Nick Nolte hasn't visited him, didn't stand up for him when he was wrongfully accused in prison of taking the payroll, and kind of went on with his life. And it is a very believable way to begin the movie, that they're pissed at each other again, that Eddie Murphy's finally getting out of prison, is finally a free man, just wants shot of everything, doesn't want to be a part of anything again. And Nick Nolte now needs his help desperately because he is basically he shoots a guy at a racetrack at a motocross racetrack at the beginning.
Yeah, doesn't just shoot him.
No, shoots him multiple times, and while shooting him, ignites a oil tanker or oil tank, just not a car, not like a truck, but like an oil tank.
No,
that's
he
by
shoots
the racetrack.
he shoots basically a gas pump.
But this is what I mean about the sequel being more ridiculous.
Yeah.
The opening sequence.
Yeah, there's a full body burn in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, so the first time we see Nick Nolte in this, well, first of all, it starts off and you get the bikers from hell kind of thing, the Andrew Divoff biker gang, Divoff playing the brother to Gans, which is hilarious because they're completely different nationalities and races and everything else. But it's fair enough. Divoff doing his best to hide his accent.
You killed my brother.
Yeah. We see them rock up to a desert bar and then for no reason kill everybody, including 2 cops. And in the process of killing them, blowing them, as I said, out of a window with just a handgun. Then we cut to Nolte at the racetrack, and before you can even say, sorry, what's going on, he shot a guy multiple times in the chest, blown up the racetrack, and there are motocross bikes flying in all directions. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, now I know where we are. Like, this feels more familiar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, so you've got... there's a shadowy drug lord that Nick Nolte has been trying to track down for 5 years and can't get close to.
I got to tell you, I actually really liked the fake out in this one. Like,
yes.
It's not 100% like it's one of those things where it's like, as soon as it's revealed that like he's been searching for this guy with no luck, like in the back of your head, you're already like, oh, well, he's probably one of the cops, you know, like it's not, it's not that big of a thing, but I liked the fake out.
Twice, actually.
Yeah. Well, the big
sort
fake
of.
out. Yeah. The big fake out of it being like, the new cop who I don't believe he was in the first movie at all.
He's not in the first one.
Yeah.
No. Edo
So it's like,
Ross in this one. Edo Ross, who again, Edo Ross is another one of those guys, crops up in a ton of these movies.
Yeah.
As is Kevin Tiggy or Ty or
I think it's Tig. Yeah.
Tig. Who is, again, he's the bad guy, for example, in K9, Kevin Tig. So what I love about these two movies is they're literally a who's who of 80s and 90s bad guys.
Yeah.
Throughout.
You know, so as soon as they show the new cop, like, and then as soon as it gets into your brain, it's like, oh, well, it's probably one of the cops. And then you're like, oh, well, that's a new cop, so it's probably him.
Right.
You know, and then it's not. And
Right.
it's like, oh, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
Because you don't know until Eddie Murphy stands up and says, that's not the Iceman. You know?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck.
So what's great about... So the second movie falls down is that it's not as artistically put together.
No.
And they ill-advisedly, as far as I'm concerned, considering that they wrote it so well to get them opposite sides of the law and get them back together in a semi-believable, okay, I'm going with this type way. That to have them kind of redo in a sort of wah-wah type way, little bits from the first movie, doesn't sit particularly well. Like, I'm already like you've already put yourselves back together. It works. I don't need a, like, we did this 6 years ago type callback.
Sure.
So it does that rather clumsily, but it has a good, strong plot throughout, good, strong script. The action is much better and ramped up. And, for example, like they take out the prison bus that he's riding into San Francisco on at the beginning of the movie, and it flips over 785 times. And actually one of the funniest, most Eddie Murphy bits in this movie is Eddie Murphy goes twice, actually, in a diatribe to a bunch of people. He's like, I was on a prison bus, it flipped over 18 times.
And the number changes every single time. You're like, I was on a bus, it flipped over 27 times.
Which I thought, like, that was a really funny moment. Like, I really did like that. And I have to say, in terms of sheer enjoyment, I prefer the sequel.
The sequel is one of those movies that you can just sit down, turn your brain off, and watch and just enjoy. It's definitely like a popcorn film, whereas the first one, you're kind of like a little bit more invested.
Right.
Yeah.
But also weirdly, the sequel has more twists and turns in its plot.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one kind of almost doesn't. Like halfway through the first one, I had to stop myself and go, so hang on a second, like nothing really is going on. Like
nothing really happens.
Like he doesn't really need Eddie Murphy's help in the first one. I think essentially Eddie Murphy gives him like one good tip. Right. And then everything kind of so it's that's a bit like you and your love life. You give a woman one good tip and then
yeah, well, you pay for the service, you got to leave a tip.
Right, exactly. Just the tip, though.
Just the tip. But yeah, and the same thing happens in the second one too. Like he gives him one tip, and like it careens into this whole thing. But Eddie Murphy's character is a lot more useful in the second one because you're adding the plot point that Eddie Murphy's knows who the Iceman is, like he's seen him, so he kind of has to stick around. Like Eddie Murphy could have gone away in the first 20 minutes of the first 48 hours, and the rest of the movie probably would have progressed the same it would have regardless.
And the other thing about the first one is that there is this weird time constraint of 48 hours, which sort of represents a ticking clock, but at a certain point doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
Like exactly. It's the name of the movie, and the first act or whatever has this ticking clock of like, we've got to get you back to prison in 48 hours. But then at a certain point, whatever, like it doesn't. Once they become friends, that idea of ticking clock really doesn't fucking matter. Because if Nick Nolte takes him back to prison a day later, nobody gives a shit. Like, no.
Right.
Fucking. So even the name of the movie is kind of disingenuous.
Well, and the second movie only takes place over the course of a day. So it's not even 48 hours.
Right. that might have been a better title for the sequel. Not even 48
hours. Yeah.
36 hours. But high points of the second one for me is definitely the cast. We failed to mention Frank McRae from the first one as the stereotypical shouty black boss, which I absolutely
I was going to say I posted pictures of him on Twitter because he's like I was talking to Brandon about this too. I was saying like the angry black police captain or like police chief is like a trope that I miss so much in movies. Like it just doesn't happen anymore. Or when it does, it's like in the 21 Jump Street, like obviously overdone, very much used for comedic effect sort of thing. But it used to like legit happen all the time, and it was great. Like to have this just overblown, like so close to having just like massive ulcers and a heart attack, and it was this great trope that they used to use all the time, and now like it's gone by the wayside. They don't even use it anymore.
Right, and of course you've got the wonderful fucking Gilbert R. Hill as Inspector Todd in Beverly Hills Cop, which to me, he is the greatest, like, mean son of a bitch captain, and he's only in those movies. Like, that's all he's in.
Yeah, it's a
he
shame.
is so good.
Yeah, I mean Frank McRae's great in 48 Hours. He really is.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. The Beverly Hills Cop, like he's fucking incredible.
No, Frank McKay's incredible. Of course, he gets to play one of the iterations of Sharky, the James Bond boatman that appears in the novels and a few of the films, and in License to Kill with our favorite Bond, Dalton. So I like Frank McRae for that.
Your favorite Bond.
My favorite Bond. But also, you're getting a little bit of the those blaxploitation action stars trickling through now into 80s and 90s action films. Bernie Casey does a good turn in the sequel, Another 48 Hours, and in one hilarious moment, again, where Walter Hill just goes, fuck it, let's throw any sense of realism and proportion out of the window. At one point, Bernie Casey is like, give me my money, and then punches through a bulletproof glass in a prison, which is incredible.
It's, yeah.
And out of nowhere. Like, it doesn't...
Yeah. And it's like, and like you don't even see the fallout of it either, because it happens and then it's smash cut to the next fucking scene.
Yeah, it's literally like he smashes the window, cut. Like, it's almost literally a smash cut. Like, it's, yeah. I'm loving Andrew Divoff. Who are the other bikers? So who's the first biker we get? I don't know who that is.
Well, I'm looking on the IMDb page here. So the actor's name is David Anthony Marshall, who the only other thing that I can see that I mean, he's still working. It looks like he does a lot of TV now, but he was in a movie he was in Roadside Prophets, which wasn't terrible.
Right.
It looks like he did a ton of TV, basically.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
But he's good. Ella Ross, as we mentioned earlier, is like the new cop on the team. Brian James is back. Kevin Teige, who is just a shit. Like, I don't believe that Kevin Teige could ever play a legitimately nice character, because in every film, he is just an utter shit.
Yeah, he's pure shit. Actually, looking at this is... No, he's done I'm looking back at the David Anthony Marshall thing still, because I'm trying to figure out what the hell he's even been in.
Right.
He's done almost nothing as far as movies is concerned. It's almost everything is TV.
But I mean, I love him, and I love him for being a shit. So it's fun having him in the film. And so, my kind of feeling is, the nice thing about these two movies is watch them both. But be aware that the first one is more Dirty Harry, and the second one is more Lethal Weapon 3.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely more over the top. It's like the second one might as well have been directed by James Glickenhaus. Like, that's the level we're talking here.
Yeah.
Because if you watch The Protector, the Jackie Chan Glickenhaus vehicle, that is where Glickenhaus discovers that you can yank a guy through a window on a cable and make him fly. Because there's that barroom scene at the beginning of The Protector, which is meant to be down near Tribeca, where Jackie Chan shoots a guy and he flies up through a bar, through a window, out onto the street with magic. And so we're kind of talking that level. Like, Glickenhaus might as well have made this. It's like a more polished Glickenhaus.
That's fucking great.
But it is. It's great, and I enjoy both of them, and I think they are definitely like this. These two and Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2 could have really cemented like Eddie Murphy as a action star. And I think the weird thing is Eddie Murphy sort of jumps around too much. I mean, he did, later on in his career, he did Metro, I seem to remember, was a sort of action thing, wasn't it?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, he plays a cop in that. And he did, what was it? The I Spy movie which was sort of action comedy. But because he kind of jumps around a lot, he's not really, you can't really consider him one of those action stars, in the same way that you can. It's one thing Bruce Willis showing up in a comedy, but predominantly Bruce Willis does action movies, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Whereas Eddie Murphy sort of does things all over the place. So, and I've never seen Metro. I mean, it comes slap bang in the middle of the shitty period, so I'm not in any hurry to see it. It's the film he makes after Nutty Professor. So I don't know. I might track it down, but I suppose, would you call The Golden Child action comedy, or is that just more comedy with a little bit of adventure in it?
Yeah, it's like a comedy adventure, but there's action there.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, and I think I like his character, Reggie Hammond, in the 48 Hours movies, how he can handle himself physically.
Right, he's not useless.
Right, and he's not just, you think he's going to be the mouth and Nolte's going to be the fists. But actually, they both have talents in both areas, kind of thing.
Yeah. There's even that great line where where they're having that conversation about like all a cop needs is a badge and a gun, and Nolte's like, no, that's not it at all. You just need bullshit and experience.
Right. And so I think it's worth it to watch. I wish we had 50 movies of Nick Nolte as this character, because I can pretty much watch him walk around devouring the scenery as if it was rice paper for the rest of my life. That would make me happy.
Honestly, I could just listen to Nick Nolte on a loop, doing that noise he makes when he's thinking about something to say, where it's just like. Yeah.
Well, I like the fact that in the sequel he runs into the middle of his hearing, like you said, that there was a court hearing happened that started half an hour ago. Drives up to the steps of the courthouse.
It started 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago. Drives up to the steps of the courthouse, marches into the hearing, and is like as loud as humanly possible. It's like, it's that guy. It's that guy. It's gotta be fucking that guy. Like it's insane. It's insane. You would be dragged out and handcuffed and
you would have been put in contempt of court immediately.
And they're like,
doing that.
They're like, come here, we're going to arrest you. And he's like, fuck that. And then they're off again. He just doesn't care in the second one, which is why I love it. I really do love it.
Which one is it? Is it this? I think I want to say it's the second one where the traffic cop is trying to ticket Nolte's car. And Eddie Murphy's Reggie's on the phone, yelling.
That's the second one,
yeah. He's like, yeah. He says he really hates cops. He does, doesn't he? And he starts writing. He goes, yeah, he's a big dick cop. It's like he's some big asshole cop named Jack Cates, and the guy just pulls the ticket off. It's like, tell Cates he can't park here. And of course, he's not going to, because that's like a running, that's one of those subtle, running jokes through both films, is that he just parks wherever the fuck he wants. Half the time, if you're paying attention, not even half the time, I'd say 90% of the time, when he pulls back out into the street, he's coming off of a curb.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant. It's so great.
No, I definitely agree, and it's so much fun to just watch him traverse San Francisco. So I don't have anything else to say about these movies except what do we think about? Isn't there that song The Boys Are Back? Even though it's not The Boys Are Back in Town. It's another song that's called The Boys Are Back in Town.
I think the song is called The Boys Are Back in Town, but it's from the group called the Bus Boys, as opposed to the Thin Lizzy version that most people think of when they do. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. I know that everybody when they hear the music will be doing it on the floor. Jump up and down and turn around and tell the band to play some I like the fact that they brought the song back for the second one, but they like there's a couple of scenes in the first one of that band playing, and as much as I like that Boys Are Back song, I like the other song they play even better, where he's talking about like how there's nothing better than going out and buying a new pair of shoes.
Right. Yeah, there's a couple of club scenes where they're focusing on the music quite a bit, and you think to yourself, like, are these friends of Eddie's that he's insisted like get some time in the movie? Especially in the second one, there seems to be a whole sequence in a bar that has nothing to do with anything, that is purely to highlight these late 80s rockers.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's totally fine,
yeah, it's
because
totally
like
fine.
You know, if it was shitty music, I would be a lot more annoyed. But it's like super fun. It's upbeat. You know, it's good. Like sort of like I don't know what the term, like swinging rock and roll. It's fun.
And it's interesting. I mean, like, you think about Lethal Weapon as being kind of the proto, like black and white cop kind of duo buddy cop thing. But this predates it by 5 years. And it's also ridiculous how assured Eddie Murphy is in the first movie. Like, it's ridiculous what a good actor he was. You know, he's only been on SNL like less than 2 years when he makes this first movie.
Yeah.
And it is ridiculous how talented he is as an actor, as a straight actor, as just without the wisecracking or the comedy. Just the fact that him as a straight actor, he's pretty incredible in that first movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, the dude's got a lot of talent, and it's just really a shame that his career took such a weird turn, because like he's really good.
I agree, and these two movies definitely worth a revisit if you haven't seen them before.
Both of them, absolutely.
So thank you ever so much, Mo, for joining us this week on the After Movie Diner. It's always a pleasure. Why don't you finish up by telling people where they can find you and what you are doing and what you have coming up in the future?
Well, I mean, if they want to follow me on Twitter, they can. I'm at DrunkOnVHS. As for shit I'm doing, there's the ever-present bane of my existence. I'm sorry, not Drunk on VHS. Not doing that one anymore. No Budget Nightmares, which I co-host with the one and only Doug Tilley. And the new show being hosted graciously by the After Movie Diner, which is Dead End Drive-In, which I host with Brandon Bennett.
So Mo has two shows that he's currently doing, as he said, No Budget Nightmares and Dead End Drive-In. Dead End Drive-In, as he said, is available at aftermoviediner.com, but also at aftermoviediner.com, we dug around in the recesses of the internet and found 36, I think, episodes of Drunk on VHS from various places. So
that's not bad, because I feel like there was only like 50-something or 60-something episodes total. So, I mean, like the fact that we found that many is pretty impressive. Yeah, because
I think we have the first 19 you did with Bosch. We have the last handful of live ones you did on FDTC and later Second Unit. And then we have, I think it's the Couch Cutter years we're missing. We have about half of those. There's about half of those Couch Cutter shows, probably about 14, 15 of them still missing.
And David, the guy who was running Couch Cutter, he wiped that whole site. So unless people have them like on their hard drive somewhere, which I did, but then a literal mountain of VHS tapes fell on my computer and destroyed my hard drive. So
that sucks.
Yeah, it really does. So I don't have access to any of those anymore. And that's why these are all lost episodes, because they don't exist anymore. They're just not there.
But no, it's cool. It's really cool. I'm really glad we have those. And what's weird is, although, like you say, David's wiped that and it's no longer available on iTunes, the titles and the descriptions are still available on Stitcher for the Couch Cutter ones. So although you can't play the episodes, I was able to get the order. So they're in chronological order as best as I could figure it. They really are. I've done the first 19, luckily, Michael, who got me those, were already listed 1 through 19. The Couch Cutter ones I figured out from the Stitcher Ghost site, and then the live ones I had to put together using the fact that at the beginning of each episode you did a sexual glossary, and I was able to figure out, because you would say last week we did that word and this week we're doing that, so I was able to figure it out that way. So yeah, they're in order as much as possible, and that is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and TalkShoe, and aftermoviediner.com under, I want to say, Drunk on VHS - the archive, I think.
Oh, and if you want to listen to the archive, speaking of which, of No Budget Nightmares episodes, they're all on there, up to and including the newest one. You can go to nobudgetpodcast.com.
And that's still going. That's always been the same,
yeah. That's perpetual. That will always be going, yeah.
Well, anyway, dude.
That show will last forever until me and Doug have some weird falling out and hate each other. Until you and Doug have a back alley brawl amongst the dumpsters of San Francisco. No, see, then it'll go on even longer because we'll be, like, best friends at that point. Yeah. Well, dude, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for being on the show. It won't be the last time you hear Mo Porn gracing the booths of the After Movie Diner, but thanks again, sir. I'm so sorry, folks. Always a pleasure, man. Take it easy and have a good time. All right. We've been waiting for a long time. Yes, we've been waiting for a long, long time. We've been waiting for a long time, but we ain't gonna wait no more. We're getting ready to rock and roll. We're gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Well, there's a reason everybody should be shaking in the house tonight. And you should grab your favorite lady and promise her you'll do it right. Tell Fat Jack to jump back and give you a shot of some booze, so you can party to some stomp down, butt bump, and rock and roll rhythm and blues. But the boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. I know that everybody, when they hear the music, will be doing it on the floor. Jump up and down and turn around and tell the band to play some more. So tonight you can dance and romance and do anything you feel like doing. So don't look surprised, 'cause you know what I like, and tonight we ought to do it. 'Cause the boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. Oh yeah. Well, there's a reason everybody should be shaking in the house tonight. And you should grab your favorite lady and promise her you'll do it right. Tell Fat Jack to jump back and give you a shot of some booze, so you can party to some stomp down, butt bump, and rock and roll rhythm and blues.
You've been listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, Jon Cross.